Musab bin Umayr returns to Mecca with 75 Muslims. 75 new Muslims coming behind him. And Rasulullah ﷺ sees this, and this happens in the Akaba. And there they promise Rasulullah ﷺ, they promise Rasulullah that they will be committed for this religion, for this faith, and they will do whatever it takes to sacrifice their life, to sacrifice their wealth, whatever it may be. 75 Muslims. And as Rasulullah ﷺ was about to embrace Musab bin Umayr, he says one thing. He says, Ya Rasulullah, these 75 are only the ones that you see here. There's no household in Medina that the word of Allah has not entered into. And there was 10,000 people back then in Medina. The population was 10,000 people. There's no house where the word of Allah has not entered into. So the 75 that you see is just a number that came with us. And after that, the gateway to Medina, the gateway to Hijrah, the migration to Medina happens. As you guys know, the prosecutions in Mecca lead to different situations. Many difficulties come with it. And with this, they're able to migrate to Medina. Because of Musab bin Umayr, because of one committed man, a young man. So age is just a number, boys. Many times we see the youth saying, I'm too young. Many times we see the youth saying, who am I to be taking upon a responsibility as such? Age is just a number. It's never an excuse. This is the lesson that we learn from these Sahaba. It's just an excuse. They're willing to put everything forward, no matter what the circumstances are. How committed are we? After the Hijrah, they continue building the community. Musab bin Umayr plays an important role. And the Battle of Badr happens. In the Battle of Badr, as you guys know, the Muslims were only about approximately 300 people, a little above 300 people, and the Mushrik were 1,000 people. And the Battle of Badr was a defensive warfare. The place of Badr is closer to Medina. The Mushrik, the non-believers, they were approaching to Medina to attack them because they saw how strong the Muslims were getting. And they stopped and, they defended themselves in Badr. Badr is very close to Medina, so we understand it was a defensive warfare. 300 against 1,000. And Musab bin Umayr, once again, plays a very important role, fights very courageously for the sake of Allah. A year later, the Battle of Uhud happens. 1 year later. The Battle of Uhud was a very difficult time for the Prophet ﷺ and for all the Muslims, because they were caught in crossfire. They were being attacked by the enemy from two sides. And many of the Sahaba were either left injured, heavily injured, or they were martyred. They were shaheed. Many of the Sahabas, over 70. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's beloved uncle, the famous Hamza radiallahu anh, was one of those Sahabas. He was left in such a condition that it was very difficult to handle for the Prophet ﷺ. Hamza radiallahu anh. But in this battle, we also have another name who was martyred, who sacrificed his life. It was Musab bin Umayr. Musab bin Umayr had already sacrificed his youth, his wealth, his time, and energy. And the circumstances brought it to a situation where he had to sacrifice the one thing left, and that was his life. Ibn Qamiyya, one of the non-believers, the mushrik, a very fierce warrior, was attacking continuously towards the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He was committed. He was like an assassin, trying to specifically kill and injure the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Ibn Qamiyya. In fact, he's the one that put the helmet through the Prophet ﷺ's cheek, resulted in that bleeding, that wound. Just like all the other Sahabas, no one, including Musab bin Umayr, was thinking of their own life. The one thing they had in their mind was, how can I protect the Prophet? How can I protect him from being injured? Abu Qatada radiallahu anh was one of the Sahabas who saw an arrow flying towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and stuck his head out and got shot in the eye. People did not care whatsoever. They didn't even think for a second about their own life. Musab bin Umayr was one of those heroes. He thought to himself, who do I love more? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or myself? This life that I have. I have sacrificed everything. Perhaps this was going through his head. I have sacrificed everything. The only thing I have left is my life. And this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And there was a serious force that was attacking towards the Prophet ﷺ. And the Sahaba had created this wall holding together around the Prophet ﷺ. And there was many people, there was many Sahabas who were within this wall, and they were just getting shot at with the arrows, the spears, the swords, whatever it was. Musab bin Umayr knew he had to do something. And one way or another, he drew the attention of that one crew, including Ibn Qamiyah, out of that wall, and he drew it towards himself. He went to another destination, to another direction. And who knows, according to some people, it was that crew followed Musab bin Umayr because of the fact that he resembled the Prophet ﷺ. He resembled him so much. Perhaps that was the reason why they followed him and decided to all pile up on him. And Musab bin Umayr was given the duty of carrying the flag. He was carrying the flag of Islam. The amana, the trust that we are all carrying today. The Sunnah and the Quran. We are all carrying a flag, just like Musab bin Umayr was doing. And he draws the attention towards another direction. Ibn Qamiyah follows him. And it comes to a point where Musab bin Umayr can't run off anymore. And these words start spilling out of his mouth. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. And he says this repeatedly. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. Muhammad is only a messenger. Messengers have passed away before him. He's reminding himself that he's only a messenger, and whatever he's doing is for the sake of Allah. If he dies, he's not going. If Prophet Muhammad ﷺ were to be harmed, this is not a reason to step back in my position of Islam. And there, Ibn Qamiyah sees this courageous man, sees this brave man, and brings down the sword on his right arm where he was holding the flag of Islam. As he chops it down as if he were chopping wood, the flag falls, and before it could fall, Musab bin Umayr catches it with his left hand, cries out a takbir, Allahu Akbar, continues saying the words that were spilling out of his mouth, continues to say, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. Continues to remind himself, and he raises the flag again because the flag of Islam cannot fall down, with his left hand. And there Ibn Qamiyah chops that left hand as well. And he has nothing left but those pieces of his arms, whatever it may be, and his neck. And he holds the flag with that. Still very committed. Because the flag of Islam can't fall. And one last blow, right on his head, on his neck. And there he falls face forward, and the flag of Islam falls with him. Musab bin Umayr sacrificed his life, his energy, his time. He taught people the Quran. He opened the gates of Medina. Possibly one of the biggest reasons why the Muslims flourished so much back 1400 years ago, and to this day they continued to grow. When the Sahaba found the body of Musab bin Umayr, they were looking for a shroud to wrap him up with, so that they could bury him. And Musab bin Umayr only had one cardigan, that old piece of cloth that he had. And the Sahaba, they went to the Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, when we try to cover his head, his feet show, and when we try to cover his feet, his head shows. A man of wealth, a man with all the wealth, all the robes, all the clothings, all the silk, was left only with one cardigan. And it's not even enough to be a shroud for him. And Rasulullah ﷺ commands the Sahaba to cover his head with the cardigan and to cover his feet with leaves and bury him in that way. And he stands before Musab bin Umayr and says, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. Among the believers are men who have been true to that they have pledged to God. He had a pledge to God. Musab bin Umayr had a promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had a promise to this faith. He was committed. When he said the shahada, he had signed that contract and he was truthful to it. Whatever it took, he was willing to sacrifice. May Allah's mercy, peace, and His blessings be upon those who sacrificed their lives, who died who were martyred on the Battle of Uhud, who were martyred on the Battle of Badr. This lesson is very important for us, brothers and sisters, because in today's world, with all the fitna that's growing, we need Musabs taking care of this generation. We need people who we could trust, who could carry this amana, the flag of Islam. We need people who could be great representations of Islam. We need Musabs who are harmless to the people around themselves, who are respectful, who are responsible, and who are willing to sacrifice everything, who are willing to give up for their brothers and sisters, who are willing to choose others before themselves. This is what being committed, what being submitted to this religion means. And I know some of you guys here take care of the youth. Some of you guys are mentors. MashaAllah. And this is a great thing to think about, because you guys are the light for the next generation. Bi-idhnillah. You guys are hopefully playing a role in being the Musab of this generation. You guys are mentoring kids so that they become better Muslims and better individuals. And that's exactly what we need. We need Musabs taking care of the future generations to come. Because I trust, I promise you that none of you here would ever want to hear his child come to him and say, Father, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And I don't want to believe in God. Just imagine how shocked and how heartbroken you would be if your child came to you and said, Baba, I'm not a Muslim. I don't want to be a Muslim. For us to not have this kind of things to happen to our kids and to others' kids, so that people are not left heartbroken, we have to be conscious of what we are exactly in. We have to be conscious of this religion of Islam and how to protect it and how to spread the light of it, how to carry this flag, how to serve the generations to come. You guys are going to be the generation to touch people's hearts. You guys are going to be soft-spoken to them. You guys will be role models and examples because of how responsible and caring you guys are, how successful you guys are. Bi-idhnillah.